The number of Nicaraguans leaving has jumped this past month.
We are experiencing the largest migration since the Second World War. From Nicaragua to Venezuela, Syria to Yemen, the Congo to South Sudan, people are seeking refuge in record numbers. Europe has claimed a refugee crisis as people flood the shores of Spain, Italy, Greece, Croatia, and more.
Hungary has declared a state of emergency and has totally closed its borders to anyone, with the result that on the Serbian side a great crush of people is building up as more people arrive by the hour.
I feel great. Feel safe. Yeah, you know, finally. Yeah, we did it.
Since the Syrian civil war and resulting migrant crisis, most of the narrative around refugees has been the burden they place on European countries, such as Greece, France, and the UK. But these and other wealthy nations are actually absorbing very few people in need. In fact, of the 21 million refugees in the world, most are living in just a handful of countries, many of which are suffering from their own financial and political problems. For instance, the UK has taken in just 8,000 refugees since 2011, while its population is 10 times bigger than Jordan's.
Hundreds of people rush across a sand ditch, the line that divides their country's border, Syria from Jordan. Over 1,300 Syrian refugees arrived in just over 24 hours.
1 year ago, Zaatari was built to hold 5,000 Syrians. Now it holds 23 times that number, a fraction of the 500,000 in Jordan.
Turkey's absorbed more than 2 million Syrian refugees and now says it's reached its limit, leaving these exhausted people stranded.
The UN says around 400,000 Rohingya people have fled violence in the Rakhine state in Myanmar. Tens of thousands are pouring into Bangladesh daily.
It has taken us 20 days to come here. Our village was attacked by the army and Buddhist mobs. They burnt a house and my aunt was killed.
Only about 5% of refugees are trying to reach Europe and the United States. 95% flee to other parts of their own country or neighboring countries.
More than 1 million Venezuelans have moved into Colombia in recent years. And in an era of record-setting migration, when borders seem to be getting thicker, harder to cross, Colombia is doing something that you don't see very often. It's opening its doors and it's letting people in.
The border crisis is shocking. It's a real humanitarian crisis.
3 years into this crisis, and more European countries are adopting hardline attitudes towards migrants. Italy in particular, since it's closed its ports to migrants rescued at sea. These two far-right politicians are working to bend Europe to their vision of the future. Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini and Austria's Vice-Chancellor Heinz Christian Strache.
Generally, I would like to state that one cannot agree with any deliberations to make migration a human right. That is contrary to all our principles and the principles of democratic states.
But don't refugees have rights outlined by international law? Yes, they do.
Those rights were outlined in the UN's 1951 Refugee Convention, which was originally created to help Europe cope with millions of stateless people following World War II. According to the convention, if a displaced person faces persecution on the basis of their beliefs or identity, they are legally allowed to enter a foreign country to ask for asylum. Additionally, this host country is not allowed to send them back to their home state if their life or freedom would be threatened.
Clearly, a double standard exists. 120,000 Polish refugees settled in Iran after World War II.
Nearly 120,000 Polish refugees crossed the Caspian Sea in crowded boats and landed in the port city of Bandar Anzali. At that time, Iran was receiving up to 2,500 refugees per day. Thousands of them were children who had lost their parents and were sent to live in Isfahan. From 1942 to 1945, nearly 30,000 children stayed in Isfahan, and the city was nicknamed the City of Polish Children.
However, today, Poland refuses to accept any refugees from the Middle East.
Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki says his government won't meet the EU's mandatory refugee quotas. We are invariably of the opinion, formulated by the Law and Justice Party ahead of the elections in 2015, that we will not be receiving migrants from the Middle East and North Africa in Poland. Last month, the European Commission said it would sue Poland, Hungary and the Czech Republic for refusing to host asylum seekers.
But some European countries are respecting the international law. Spain and Portugal are leading the way.
The Spanish Socialist Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez made it clear that he wants to be a bulwark against the rise of the right in Europe.
Of course it's important indeed to make that control of frontiers, but of course you also need to see globally what the migration policy means. It means, first of all, to reinforce and to strengthen the cooperation and the dialogue with the countries of origin and countries of transit, and this is something that we are delivering as the Spanish government.
Portugal finds itself in a minority of one inside the European Union, the only country actively trying to encourage refugees to come and settle here. Portugal has reached out to Greece and Italy and is in advanced talks with Germany about relocating thousands of people. The country has accepted many more from Turkey and Egypt. Portugal's Interior Minister makes the case for doing this in a way you almost never hear anymore inside the European Union, that it isn't only morally right to accept refugees, but an economic and social opportunity.
I like the country, the people, the climate's like home, the way they treat us. I don't feel like a stranger here. I can speak Portuguese now, and it makes things much simpler.
Germany was a strong leader in Europe when it came to accepting refugees. However, their policies and public opinion have begun to shift.
More than 1 million refugees have arrived in Germany since 2015. But there's been a big backlash against Chancellor Merkel's open door policy. In last year's elections, the far-right anti-immigration AfD party won more than 12% of the vote here in Bavaria. Still, opinion is mixed on whether the new refugee centers are a good idea.
Wenn das schnell ausgeführt wird, ja, wenn man das nicht in die Länge zieht, auf jeden Fall.
I don't think that those transit centers are a good idea because we pretend that their problem is not our problem, but yet we are part of their problem.
Gute Idee, ich weiß es nicht, aber sie sind halt ziemlich abgeschottet da draußen, gell? Weit und breit nichts, Einkaufsmöglichkeiten null. Und was sollen die Leute den ganzen Tag machen?
Germany's asylum policy has changed a lot since 2015. Today's push for anchor centres is the latest response from a government increasingly under pressure from politics and public opinion.
We now shine a light on one of those neighboring countries, Uganda, who is carrying its weight in this refugee crisis.
No one would choose to be a refugee, but many are forced to do just that. They flee violence at home, face restrictions in their new country, and are usually dependent upon others for food, water, and health care. But Uganda, a country hosting more than 1.1 million refugees and asylum seekers, is trying to ease their burdens with what many analysts call its progressive refugee policy. Uganda's approach comes from a Pan-African mindset of helping Africans in trouble, which currently includes those in neighboring South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burundi. Uganda has refugee settlements, not camps. Host communities have donated much of the land for these settlements. Refugees receive a 50 by 50 meter plot for shelter and cultivation, enjoy freedom of movement, receive employment waivers in order to work, and can start businesses.
It's good because here in Uganda we are feeling good. There is no fighting like South Sudan.
We introduce you to what the media calls a forgotten war.
Today, more than 3 million people, almost a third of South Sudan's population, have been forced from their homes. Half of them have fled to neighboring countries like Uganda. The rest are internally displaced, like John Janub. He arrived here with his wife and daughter last year when fighting spread to their hometown called Yei, in the southern part of the country in a region called Equatoria. The civil war originated in a power struggle over the country's top post between South Sudan's first president, Salva Kiir, and his former first vice president, Riek Machar. As both men mobilized support along ethnic lines, the conflict pitted Kiir's tribe, the Dinka, against Machar's, the Nuer, turning it into a broader struggle over land and resources, including oil. The two leaders signed a peace deal in 2015, but it collapsed 9 months ago when fighting resumed in Juba. Machar fled and is now living in exile in South Africa. When President Kiir's government troops reached Yei, Janub thought his family would be spared. Like most of his tribe, they had remained neutral. But to his horror, Janub saw government troops set fire to his home.
All my family were taken inside. There are 7 people in the family: my mother, the father, the sister, and my brothers. And the wife of my brother was there. They closed the door. Then they started putting the fire. They started burning the house. Then the soldiers, some of them, they were deployed at the door. In case people are inside, someone will break the door, will come out, then they will shoot.
Janub says 7 members of his family and several neighbors died in the fire. And then the soldiers went after him.
When I started running, then he was following me. Then they started shooting me. This is a place where I was being shot. The bullet came from here, they shoot me from here, then the bullet came out from here.
Janub managed to escape with the help of friends. For 3 weeks, they walked through the wilderness until they reached this camp.
We now present to you Refugees Welcome, brought to you by Hip Hop Saves Lives, Sosolya Dance Academy, and Timeless Nonprofit. I am your host, Chad Harper, founder of Hip Hop Saves Lives. The goal of this project is to use the power of art and entertainment to help celebrate the strength and courage of refugees. We believe that sharing their stories in detail of what they have lived through and survived will assist people and countries to better serve them to rebuild not just their lives, but also their emotional mind states. On June 18, 2018, Hip Hop Saves Lives and Timeless Nonprofit had a refugee welcome launch party in Brooklyn, New York. The event was in celebration and honor of the strength of refugees and those who had welcomed them with open arms. On August 16, 2018, I traveled to Kampala, Uganda, to interview refugees from South Sudan on camera and turn their stories into music compositions. The music was composed with Sosolya Dance Academy. Bernard on my left, the lead musician for Sosolya, Harry on my right, the engineer on the project, I thank you and everyone from Sosolya Dance Academy. Ronald, who hand-painted the graphics for the album, I thank you. My mentee Gxnzo, I could not have done this without you. Thank you for coming all the way to Uganda for this. Love you for life, little bro. Mark, the founder of Sosolya, I am forever grateful. What I learned from you will last a lifetime. Thank you, Svenja, for the introduction. Thank you everyone who came to the launch party in New York City and supported this. You know who you are. I love you all. To all the artists on the album, I thank you. Shina, DoubleOmsome, Jalia, MC Spyda, MC Flower of Bavubuka Dynasty, Sumayiya, Ronah, Bridget Barkan, ShaqDup, Sudan, and all the musicians from Sosolya Dance Academy. And hey, you always have to thank your mama. So thank you, mama, and dad as well. I give final thanks to my New York City artist family for mentoring me through your art and passion all these years. And of course, the creative collective genius of the higher power. We humbly present to you 3 stories from South Sudan, Steve, Allure, and Sheila. We give thanks in advance that you enjoy. And now for their stories.
My name is Deng Stephen Marial. I was born in Mangaltoria, a small village within Kajikaji in the western equatorial side of South Sudan. My dad was a soldier in the army, and my mom worked as a nurse at the hospital in the city. I was born there, and a little sister of mine was born right after me in 2000. Life there was quite easy, though at times from the stories we'd hear, we'd never actually experience any hardship. For us, we saw life simple as kids. Everything was good, simple lives, farmers. The subsidiary money mom got from the hospital, we use it to keep on with life if the farm harvests were done, and life was simple like that. We went to a small school called Kindiri Primary School, me and my sister. Life was easy, though we would hear stories of the war that has been going on for a long time between the North Sudan Arabs and the South Sudanese, various tribes of South Sudan, and how my parents got to reach Kajikaji. Originally, my parents are both from Bor, that is almost to the, let's say, from Kajikaji it is cross country. So they migrated there due to the war which affected their village, Bor. And they would tell us stories, and to us it seemed like any other story you would tell a child. But the only difference is the horror you would see in their eyes when they explain it, what they experience. For us as kids, we would never actually get the picture of what really happened. But from what they had to do to survive it, we knew it was hard.
Gxnzo e piny Mangaltoria bang jonyuol ringo yo bor.
Tukola bukubirire, tukola nyo, tusobola kuwagula, tunasuba olulala.
Cham ne medo gi manyonge, moromo dakachana maonge yuagruok. Buk kende ne giparo, gi nyithi jok momeo en kod nyamin gi malue. Mae noyudo ka anyuon gi osekere nikech lwenje jo Arab kod jorateng. Mano North Sudan, bekni makama ne chalo ne gimana ling. nyaka chieng' moro achiel jokeji keji nochako riembo gini kech ne gibiro e pinyno kawelo. Hey.
Yeah, the family got divided. We lived with our mom in Mangaltoria, but our dad, as a soldier, he was always up and down. He would come and see us like maybe once a year, spend a week and he's gone, and we'd never see him for the rest of the year. So we basically lived with our mom most of our childhood life. And they would tell us of how my father had another family. My father was, by that time, he was married to 2 wives, my mom being the second. The first wife was staying at, was currently, at that time when I was a kid, when I was born, she was in Kenya, in a refugee camp called Kakuma, with the rest of the family. So basically the crisis, like the war separated the whole family, and our family was a large one, but divided all over the whole country and different places in Africa. We would only hear stories, and by that time we would only communicate through tape recorders, like the magnetic tapes. They would get like one, record voices, talk to us, and then send it over. It would take like maybe a week, 2 or 3 weeks to reach us. Would listen to the tapes, get the message, and maybe get another tape, record as the reply, and send it back. So it was quite easy. We didn't really get why. Our father took us, said, according to what our father said, we were taken to Mangaltoria, escaping the war that side. He didn't want us to be victims, as the place was fully destroyed. People suffered starvation. The war killed a lot of people. The homes were destroyed. People had nowhere to live. And it wasn't ending anytime soon, so the best thing he had to do for us was to relocate us to Mangaltoria. We lived there for quite a bit, as Mangaltoria wasn't our home area, so there were some challenges we faced. The people of Mangaltoria, seeing the original people of Mangaltoria, they saw us as people who came to take over their land, and were taking a lot from them. The food, the area, the water, so where the area was getting congested, and they didn't like that. So we faced a few challenges, but since we had no option, it was all for survival. We had to keep up with the hard life they were trying to give us and make good out of it. We lived there for quite a while, since till 2005, towards the end, when we shifted, because the people of Mangaltoria had become a bit harsh, and they were now taking matters in their hands. They were no longer consulting anyone. So they would basically kill people at night, burn gardens, burn houses, just to chase us away from the area. So as my parents did in the beginning, migrated from Bor, we also had to migrate again. So we migrated to Yei River County. We stayed in Yei for quite a while, but we had no home there, so it was basically a hard life. And my dad, as a soldier, was transferred to Juba, so we had a small house he got for us. So after a few months in Yei, we moved to Juba and stayed in our father's house. But still, Juba was unstable. A lot of insecurity, people dying on a daily. The crimes were too many to count. In each day, you would not count the number of deaths that would happen, but none of them would be explained to the core, and no one would ever be called accountable for the deaths. So basically, people died for, it was just like a part of life. People die on a daily, and you keep on moving with life. So our father didn't see life good for us there, so me and my sister, his salary wasn't enough to take out the whole family. So he took me and my sister. We were brought to Uganda in 2007 at the beginning, January. I remember properly, it was January 21st. We were brought into Uganda to study, but yeah, we studied, we left the rest of the family there aside. People suffered, they kept on relocating, wars happening everywhere, people getting attacked, people getting killed, but we had nothing to do about it. It was all about survival. So we stayed in Uganda with my sister from 2007 till now. Currently I'm here, my sister's back in South Sudan. Life wasn't easy, we had no home here. We had to get a distant uncle whose home we had to live in. So living in a distant uncle's home, someone you have never known before, was quite hard. He had kids and we're like taking over space in the house, so our life was still hard, but we knew how to struggle and survive. Like before, we had to just bear with the situation and live on. So we lived in Uganda for all this time. My sister finished her senior 4. I stayed in Uganda I started my primary 1 in Uganda. Currently I'm at the university. So in primary it wasn't easy. You know, fees, pocket money, shopping and all that. As a student, I was in boarding school. It was hard. Sometimes we feel like we are the most disadvantaged students in the whole school, only 2 of us. Sometimes I would sit behind the dormitory and cry, feel abandoned. But at some moments I would look back at home and see, what am I crying for that I've left behind? And I would really see nothing. So at some point I thought to myself, and I knew it, I was better off than those who were at home, even though I was suffering in this country. So I had a reason that is enough for me to live on smiling in this country. My father couldn't handle the whole family. Currently, as I speak, we are over 10 children. By that time, we were 7, so it was hard for him. That time, the army, they weren't getting salary. Maybe monthly would get maybe food, maybe get 2 sacks of rice, 1 sack of beans, and maybe a jerrycan of oil per month. But that one catering for a family of 7 children and the other relatives living in the family like the granddad and grandmom, it was hard for him. Then when we're in Uganda here, there are 3 semesters in a year. So for every holiday we used to go back to South Sudan. And our time back in South Sudan would see a lot. I for one, I never fell victim at that time. So I would only see other people suffering. In almost every morning you'd hear them announcing, the neighbor next door has been attacked, so and so's uncle is dead. So you keep on hearing such stories day and day. We kind of got used to it. Then there is a time when it actually hit me. When we separated from the north and became an independent country, things became good. Money was there, the army was getting salary now, so our father quite felt like he was stable for now. Yeah, things were good, we enjoyed life for a while. We actually saw what all our parents have been imagining for a long time. Something that we have never had, the joy in the country, you move with freedom, no problems. It was good, till the problems started again. Some small conflicts, small wars, till the biggest one, which was in 2013, the one I actually experienced myself. In 2013, I lost my granddad. So when I went over for holidays, we had to go and do like the final funeral rites. When they buried him, I wasn't around, I was in Uganda. So when I went there is when they did the final funeral rites, and I had to go up to Bor. It was my second time going to Bor. My first time going to Bor was when I was going to bury an uncle of mine. So both times of going to Bor were for burials. We did the final funeral rites, and on the final day is when the biggest horror of my life happened. It was 3 a.m. in the night when my father came knocking on the door and told me and my brother to move out, put on however many, let's say, just told us to put on clothes. If you were able to put on 5 trousers at the same time, it was okay. And to pick up documents that were important papers, pick up our passports and a few important things and carry in a small bag. We asked him what the problem was, and he told us to stop asking questions and first deal with our problems. So me and my brother packed up. When we got out, we couldn't help but notice that all the neighbors were moving out, all the roads were filled, and everyone was moving in the same direction, just on foot. People holding luggage on their heads, children on the backs, children crying, but there was no option. People were just moving in the same direction. When we saw our dad wasn't going to give us any answers. So we approached our mom and we asked her what the problem was. So she told us there was a war, that, let's say, there was a small conflict happening in the next neighborhood, and we were not taking any chances because we didn't know whether it was moving this side of ours or no. So we didn't ask much. We kept quiet and did as they said. We moved with the groups of people that were moving together. We moved out of the town, went a bit in the bush. We settled there for a while, just from 3 a.m. in the night we settled till 12 midday. Then we got to get back because people said that it was done, it was just a small conflict, but it's over now, no more problems. We had to get back to our homes. But just before we got back to our homes is when it restarted again. We didn't know what the problem was or where it started from at that time. All we knew is that there was danger and we had to run for our lives. And running for our lives meant running away from the town and running deep into the bush, not knowing where we were running to, just aimlessly running into the bush. As long as it was far away from where the gunshots were being fired, we would see from a distance that there was fire everywhere. Homes were burning, shops were looted, people crying. Some people were already crying that some of their relatives had been killed, family members. And for us, we hadn't seen anything yet with our own eyes. So me and my brother, we had to get back home. He claimed that he had forgotten his phone home, so we went back home, and when we reached there, we opened the gate, getting into our compound. In the middle of the compound, there was a dead body, someone we had never seen before, but he was shot dead in the middle of the compound. It was the first time I saw a live dead body in front of me. Most of the times I would just hear stories. It was the first time. I was terrified, but we had to get what we came for and move, because we knew anytime it could be us, so we had to move to the safe side. So we got the phone and we went back to where the family was gathered. We kept hearing gunshots the whole day, and right about in the evening when it was approaching 5 p.m. people, like the people who were closest to the city, came towards us who had already gone far enough, running. You would hold a person and ask what the problem was and they would not speak. They had no energy to speak. You just see people running just towards the bush. Some people did not ask why, they would just do the same. See somebody running and run where they are running to, because just basic instinct, you would know where they're coming from, there's danger. So people kept on running. Cars approached, army cars, but the people on the army cars were putting on like casual clothes. They were not putting on army uniforms, but holding guns and firing direct at the people. So it's not like they had a fight with anyone, it was just a matter of killing. So we ran towards the bush. The whole night we spent it running. Each time you would feel like settling just to catch a breath. The bullets sounded like they were getting closer. So we kept on running into the bush. The whole night we spent it running. Then in the morning we felt like we had got far enough. So we paused and got a place to settle, put the whole family down. And for a second we tried to ignore what was going on around and look to the family, and we noticed that from the night when we left our home, none of the kids had fed. And at that moment there was no food around. Some kids had started crying, felt helpless, moms looking toward, and nowhere to get food. You're totally in the middle of the bush. There's nowhere to get food from. So for quite a while we suffered. There was hunger, but you wouldn't dare to go back into the city because guns firing all over, so you wouldn't take that risk. We stayed there for a while. One of our uncles appeared out of nowhere. He had gone to the city and managed to sneak out a sack of rice. That sack of rice was prepared by our moms, just plainly. The rice was just boiled up, no salt. You had to eat it like that, not even ready properly, but it was all we had, so we had to feed on that. And for the next 3 days we kept on feeding just like that, the rice plain with nothing else. We felt better off because from what we would observe around, that some people wouldn't even have what to eat. So for us who had at least something to eat for the day, it was fine by us. At that moment is when it hit me. I look back at all the stories our parents used to tell us when we were kids of how they left home. And I knew for a split second there, at some point that same thing was happening again. We looked around and everybody was scared. People were worried. Some people's legs had already got injuries for walking too long. Other people collapsing. The old suffering at the same time with the young. And in South Sudan, there are quite big families. If you're the man of the house, there is a big burden on your chest, on your back. Like basically a family would have, one man has like 3 wives, and each of those wives has like 5 children, so it's a big family, and you have to cater for all of that family. So everybody around was struggling, each having their individual problems, but at that time we were all united by one problem, which was the gunshots within the city. Then the story came to hit us. It was something that started within Juba. There are very many problems that happen around, especially in Bor. Sometimes it is the cattle rustling, sometimes it is children being kidnapped, and all of those problems end up being solved with guns. So we didn't know which of those problems it was this time. Then we got information that it all started from Juba. It was a political issue between the president and the vice president, and it traveled fast. From Bor it is basically 7 to 12 hours drive from Juba, but in no time our village was the front line of the fight. It started in Juba small, and in no time we were the victims suffering. Far from where it started from, we are the ones now suffering. And in Juba, people would tell us of how most of them have moved out of the city, others in refugee camps. I didn't know that somebody would ever go into a refugee camp in his own country. I didn't know that was possible, but at that time I saw it. They saw it as the only safe place. People went to refugee camps because there was no safer place outside. And that's the only place there was food, because UN provided the food. So from all around the country, most people's aim was the nearest refugee camp to you. You would move to it. Other people who had the courage walked on foot to the country's borders, those who were close to some borders. Others walked from South Sudan to Uganda on foot. Some of them starting from Juba on foot till Uganda. From the border of Uganda to Juba is it's 8-hour drive, but people walked on foot for that distance just to get to safety. At that time we wouldn't think of tomorrow. All we had in mind was how are we getting through today, and how many of us are making it through today. Other people have already lost their loved ones, but for us the whole family was still intact. We had some people displaced, but we had hope, and we kept on praying that they were safe. It was a horror, one I've never seen before. I've heard gunshots before, but I've never seen a dead body, and I've never seen a gun being shot at me direct. And for the first time I saw that, I ran from a gun. Our father was a soldier, but still he could not stand for everyone there. There were more people on the other side than on this side. So basically, his first priority was getting his family safe, not fighting back. and it was hard at that moment. You keep running away from trouble, but this trouble keeps following you. Uh, 25th December, which was Christmas, we were still hiding in the bush. It started, I think, around 16th December is when the crisis started. But for us, we stayed in the bush till 25th of December, Christmas. Because it's when we had Christmas, on Christmas Day is when the army sent from Juba finally reached the village. So they cleared out the rebels which were within the village. Most of the people judged it as a conflict between the Nuer and the Dinka. But from where it originated from, it was a political case. But just because the president is a Dinka and the vice was a Nuer, they declared it as a tribal thing. But it started off political. And the innocent people, the people who are far away from the politics of the country, are the ones who are suffering. People picked up guns for what happened up there. Some killed reasonlessly just because someone has been told it is a conflict between the Nuer and the Dinka. If you're a Dinka, you pick a gun and point it at a Nuer. If you're a Nuer, you pick a gun and point it at the Dinka. But for us down here, we knew just there was a person pointing a gun at you, and you can either run away from it or point one back if you have one. The numbers of the rebels kept on increasing as the Nuer who were deeper in the Nuer village kept on coming towards our village. So their numbers kept on increasing. We would hear rumors of the numbers that were coming towards our village. Some said there were 5,000, others said there were more. We couldn't quite get the number. But on Christmas Day is when the army finally reached. And they fought the whole night. And by morning, the city was calm for a while. Some people moved out. We moved back into the city. And for the numbers of bodies that were on the ground, if you're moving on foot, you could not move 100-meter distance without finding another dead body. Everywhere you went, there were dead bodies all over. People's homes were burned, cars were burned, and there were still some gunshots running around, though this time the number was reduced. You would hear maybe like one from the north, maybe another one from the east. It was reduced. We found homes when we went back. Homes were looted, shops were looted. Some people had nothing to go back to. And when we came back, we didn't come back to settle. We came back to pack whatever we could manage and run out. Go at least as far as possible from the village, because the rumors about the 5,000 who were coming kept on increasing, and each time they said it again, it sounded more realistic and closer, and we knew it was dangerous. And for the numbers of people who died, it was only those who were within the village at that time when it started. But if we are to imagine now the 5,000 that are coming from outside, we didn't see chances of survival. We only had to run away. So at that time, the boats were the easiest way to get away, because from Bor, we would use River Nile to cross over to Lake State, and by that time Lake State was calm, it didn't have problems. So all you would do is struggle to get onto a boat. First of all, money for the boat is a problem. Then again, if you manage to hire one, some people make phone calls to Juba and hire a boat all the way from Juba, then it comes to pick you up and take you to where you want to go. But even though you hire a boat all the way from Juba, When it reaches on the shores in Bor, in 10 minutes, approximately 10 minutes, the boat is already full. And the people who have got in don't even know where the boat came from or who called for it. And you who called for it, you're standing aside and there's nothing you can do about it. So still, whether you call for one, it's still not your salvation. You have to still struggle for it. You pay for the boat, but again, you have to struggle to get a seat in the boat. So the first boat arrived and we had paid some money for the boat. Our parents had paid, so we struggled to get into it, and only half of the family will get into it. Some of us remained outside. Me, my dad, and some few uncles of ours, we remained behind, and half of the family went. We had to sleep over and wait for the second day. But just passing through the night is much of a problem. You can't quite get sleep, and if you manage to get sleep, you get nightmares that you have never imagined before. We have watched horror movies and we know they are movies, but this time is in a dream. You get your own horror and you know it's real. If you wake up and you realize it was a dream, you still know it could be possible, so you still get terrified even after waking up and realizing it was just a nightmare. And as you sleep, you keep on hearing gunshots everywhere, so you don't quite get sleep. You can only shut your eyes for maybe a few minutes, and when you hear one gunshot, you wake up. You hear maybe somebody knocking at the door. You feel terrified. It still scares you. Any sound that came from outside, let's say from beyond the boundaries of the room you are in, were scary. Even the voices of those who were within the room with us still scared us, because some people would be attacked inside their homes. They either they lock the doors and burn you inside, or maybe they can break in and kill everybody inside. So even when you're within the boundaries of your own home, you're still not secure. It was hard. Some of our family members who were displaced were nowhere to be seen. One of the elderly women moving with us, who couldn't manage to run out of the house at first when we ran at night. The first night it started. When we came back, we found her dead in the house. Like, they burnt her inside the house. So she was the first confirmed dead person in our family that we had. That some were displaced, but you could never be sure whether they're still alive or they are already dead. So just the fact that they were missing was much of a worry, as that of when you hear the news that they're dead. So you would never quite get sleep. We stayed up the whole night till morning, and the next morning when we moved back to the shores to wait for the boat, it was still hard. You stand at the shores, but even when you hear the sound of a boat, you first have to run and hide, because you're not sure whether the boat which is coming is coming to carry you to safety, or it's carrying the rebels who are coming to kill people. So every sound was scary. Even just the mere sound of the car was scary to us. Finally, at around 1, a boat arrived. People rushed in, jumped in, and it was a small boat. It wasn't like the average size we normally know. It was a small boat. People rushed into it. The boat got full, and the load went beyond the one that the boat could handle. As the boat set off the shore, it started sinking. So the people were in the boat who thought they were moving to safety actually now had to struggle to swim back to the shores. Now the shores they were running from felt a bit safer than the boat they were going to use to run to safety. The boat sank right in front of us. Those who knew how to swim struggled to swim to the shores. Some people who were at the shores and knew how to swim jumped in to save some. A few drowned. But we still stayed, watched the bodies rise up to the water. Some were pulled out and some were far to be pulled out, so we kept looking at them. You look at somebody, that is somebody you have been talking to just a few minutes ago, and now you look at them and they're just floating on water, dead. And then you get to imagine there is a big probability it would have been you. Like, you also struggled to get into that boat, but it is him who managed to get in and you failed. So there was a possibility that it is you who would have gone in and he would have remained outside. So we waited. Some people were even too weak to cry. You would find some couldn't speak. Just from what they had seen, they would just keep quiet and not even a word would get out of their mouth. Others cried non-stop. Others came passing out from the horrors they had seen. We remained standing, and the same thing that is from keep killing the people is the same thing we're waiting for. People died getting into a boat, and we're still waiting for a boat. Finally the boat reached in the evening around 6 to 7. It wasn't safe enough, but we had to take the only chance we had. We got into the boat, still the same mistake, people rushed in, but this one was a big boat, so it minded to take all of us. At least the number that had already got in, the boat could handle. Some people remained at the shores, but this one took quite a number. So we sailed the whole night till when we reached Lake State in the morning. We spent the whole day in Lake State. It was calm. From Lake State you would see, if you had to look in the direction of Bor, you would see the fires in Bor. If a bullet is shot in Bor aiming for the sky, if it is night time you would see the bullet go up, burning. Just see red hot bullet rising into the sky. You would still, there are some guns, like the big guns, you would hear them all the way from that side. You would see smoke of the houses burning from that side. So still, you know, you're a bit safe, but you're not 100% sure. Then you look at the horror that's happening where you're from, and there are some relatives who are still that side. So you keep imagining things and you keep worrying. Are they okay? Are they safe? Or maybe are they dead? Are they running? Are they sleeping? See, your mind doesn't get to settle. We spent the whole day there. In the morning, people collected money around and we managed to hire a bus to take us to Juba. The family was quite big, and most of it was under my father's responsibility. The family was made of approximately 50 and above people, and my father was in charge. So we hired a bus, we got to Juba, and reaching Juba, where it's supposed to be safer than where we are from, it's still the same case. Bullets everywhere. The home we're in, there are bullet holes on the roofs. On the wall you would find bullets that got stuck, couldn't manage to pass through, but you would find the bullets, like the bullets on the wall. And at night it is the same sound you kept hearing, the guns being fired all around, different sides, people making noise, people crying. And we got news that it was about to happen in Juba again. The big blow was happening again. There were rumors flowing around, but still you don't take chances, even if you know there are rumors. Even though you're not sure, you just have to expect the worst and still pray for the best. So our father expected the worst, so he struggled to get some money around, and the whole family was sent to Nimle, which is at the border of Uganda. Nimle is in South Sudan, but it's the closest to the border of Uganda. There was Nimle, from Nimle, when you cross into Uganda, the 3 known refugee camps. There is Nyamazi refugee camp, there is Ailo 1, Ailo 2. The family, we managed to move to Nyamazi, a refugee camp within Uganda. Our father remained in Juba. Now that we had taken now that his family was out of the country, he felt for a split second that they were safe, so it was his time to return to national duty. So he was a soldier, he couldn't move out of the country now. His first priority was done, getting his family to safety. So he remained in Juba and went to sign in back into the army, because he had taken a leave when he was going to do the last funeral rites of our grandfather. So he had to sign in back. When I reached the refugee camp, I didn't stay long because school was starting and I couldn't wait for everything else to pause because time wouldn't wait for me. So I moved from Nyamazi and came to Kampala. My dad still struggled around, got some little money, and I signed in back to school with half of the tuition paid. But in school it wasn't easy. There is what I have seen, and what I experienced. Those are horrors that were going to haunt my dreams for a long time. Then there was the other side where I was worried. My father is within the country. When you're fighting a war, there are always 2 outcomes. There is dying and living. Most of the times when you go in, the probability of you coming out is always low. So it kept on worrying me that my father was still in the country, and this time wasn't just running away from the fight. he was going to sign in back to the army, which means he was going head on into the fight. So it was a big worry. Communications were cut. Telecommunication networks in Juba were shut down. They would open sometimes, maybe work from morning till 12 midday, then close again. So we didn't communicate with him. So you would not know how he's doing, where he is, how his day went, you know. But you would just pray that he's okay. I think I'll pause there.
Possessions, I hear weapons. Papa stressing, but mama confession. Screaming, get dressed in no less than some seconds. For pressing along with the rest of the village. Avoiding the pillage, the thought of blood spillage. The bushes are refuge, we run till we get news. We're mute and we pray. No bullets or strays. Stories of war had committed us today.
Never say, Bavubuka, I see smokes of houses burning. Never say,
no relief, no stress, just catching our breath. Best we try to ignore the stress. Fires, the screams, nightmares, no dreams. Bodies lay flat, I know what it means. Every sound sounds like a horror. Modern day Sodom Gomorrah. City to city, see torture. Should we just run for the border? The way he carries scares me, linear weary. People just name me can no longer bear. We were just speaking, he's no longer here. They cease to press. They succumb to the test. That could have been me. Tell me why I still breathe through my eyes. Inside the border, I'm free.
Na entalo zino, tiono muavu, tiono mwelunyo. Entalo zino.
My name, Alora Wena Alor. I'm a South Sudanese by nationality, a Dinka by tribe, born in Wau, 1978. Life has never been good. Up to now, I'm still studying. I'm very old, as I can say. I have 40 years, but I've seen a lot of difficulties in South Sudan. I've seen so much things because my dad is a soldier. From South Sudan, we moved all South Sudan because my dad could go from here to another place, from place to another place, from place to another place. Also the same. When we are in North also, my dad actually moved from Khartoum to Medeni, from Medeni to Sinar. So they keep changing him because he's a soldier man. They could take him to another place, so he has not to leave us behind. He has to go with us because he has nobody whom he knows that will be with us. So we only depend on him. We are children, we don't know anything. Somebody grew up in a very bad life, very, very bad life. by surprise, we have seen somebody else displacing us. Like among ourselves, there's a leader called Carbino Kwanyin. Carbino Kwanyin turned against SPLA because SPLA was the leading party. So when he turned against, he was killing his fellow Sudanese, South Sudanese. So by then we didn't know what war is. So we had to run to escape our life from killing us. Even what we have cultivated and the house we built all got burned. We tried to catch up with life. Again, the war broke up. There's this called Massyria. They moved with horse. They came, attacked the whole village and burning, kidnapping kids, killing people. So we actually found it very hard. Somebody has to run barefoot. So when you reach where you are going, you could even not find your mother, your father. They ran in their own ways. So life was not easy actually in South Sudan. So that's where my dad got idea of bringing us to Uganda. Now since there's no transport, there's nothing to take us because it's very far. From South Sudan to Uganda, it's very far where we are. Okay, that side of Paliet. Paliet is almost near to northern Sudan. So we had 7 days footing from Paliet to Yinkwil. So, okay, we get prepared before we leave the place because we know there's nobody we can find because even the houses are very far. You move in the bush whereby you take like 3 hours not seeing any house around. So it is also risky, but we just go because there's no way. So you should have your water, you should have your food also. So we had food called kisra. Kisra, you make it and you dry it. You put it on sun to get dry. So you can eat it anywhere. Also meat, you cut it small and you dry it, and then you keep it in your own. And okra, also you dry okra, you know. These are the food which we had. Anywhere we go, we collect some fire, and we light, and we cook our food. So when we reach Yinkwil, at least there are this truck of army. My dad is an army man. And he has seen there's no future. In South Sudan, there's no future at all. So what he had to do, he has to send me to Uganda. So when I came to Uganda, that's where actually I've seen peace. And that's where I've studied very well for, maybe I settled in one place for something like maybe many years without running, without war, without any problem. I've studied my primary school, high school, until university. So I got that chance. I can call myself that I'm one of the lucky person who really escaped from all the problem which is happening, so from the war which is taking place in South Sudan, which does not actually set you free to do what you could do so that other world could know that for you, you have got this and that. So my message is this. I really want to thank Uganda so much for giving me that settlement, for giving me that education. Now even I got saved in Uganda here. I noticed that there's what called God. I think God is the one who helped me to overcome all this. So life is not easy in South Sudan. Life has never been easy, totally, completely, especially on my side, because I've seen a lot of bad things happening. We kill each other. You could hear today somebody has shot, somebody has been killed for no reason. Just for no reason, because I'm a Nuer. That one is a Dinka. I'm a Dinka. That one is a Nuer. People are killing themselves South Sudan for no reason. A senseless war, as I heard that they say senseless war, it's true. South Sudan, people are fighting. There's no reason if I look at why do we kill each other. Also, one thing I've actually learned in Uganda, people, they live independently. They don't depend on anybody. Also, they instruct their kids when they're still young. Like, I've learned that I have to know how old are you. Like for me now, I'm 40 years old, but I've got nothing. If I told South Sudan has got peace, by now I would have owning a lot of things. I would have maybe finished my school, even though I'm still studying up to now. I would have maybe build, marry, working, doing all this. But I could feel so sorry for myself when I look at life in Uganda here. In Uganda here, there's nothing like you depend on your brother, you depend on this. It's only you to make difference, to show the world that you can make it on your own. I really love that from Uganda. So if we, South Sudan, we can we copy that life, whereby you tell your child very early that, you know, there's a certain age, when you reach, you have your own. You have not to depend on me. You have not to depend on anybody. Try your own way. So I've learned that in Uganda here, actually. I've learned that I have to do things by myself. When I reach in certain age, I have to own some things. I have to be like any human being who are doing it perfect when they're still early, when they're still young. Yeah. Most of South Sudanese who are here, they are jobless because they did not get the idea before. But we can actually do some work here in Uganda. We can go to town where there's people. We can create some work, and we do. Yeah, like for me, I'm doing business. I'm doing network marketing. Even though it's a long-term investment, but at least keeps me busy, keeps me alert, keeps me, updated, keeps me aware that one day, one time, things will go well. Uganda also had made me to know that there's God. When I made people who are God-fearing in Uganda here, and then also I got that knowledge that the only thing is to love one another, to do right, to be righteous, to be good, to see anyone like you. For me, when I came to Uganda, and I got that, I felt so sorry for my brothers in South Sudan who are there killing themselves in the name of tribe. That I'm a Dinka, I'm a Nuer, I'm so and so. But that one in front of God does not matter at all. God doesn't want to know whether you are Dinka, whether you're Nuer, whether what. Only God wants to know how faithful are you, how good are you, what are you doing for other people, so that they can also get what you know. My thank goes to His Excellency, the President of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. I really want to appreciate him so much for giving peace, not only to me, but to everybody who comes to Uganda here, can actually find peace in Uganda. Uganda, especially people of Uganda, are very peaceful. So it depends on how you live with people. But I love Uganda. I love Uganda more than my country. Because what I've gained in Uganda here, I'm sure if I were in South Sudan, I would have not gained it. Because South Sudan, I spent my whole life seeking for a school. I cannot even settle for a year in one place because war could break up anytime, any day. I've seen so horrible things in South Sudan. But I really pray, I really ask that if things could change and make South Sudan a better place, I'm sure all of us will benefit and will get that fruit of South Sudan. Like before, it was good. Before the war in 2013, South Sudan was actually developing very, very, very fast. Things were there. We are seeing new people. We are seeing new things, even new skills. We are learning a lot. But when war came, everything spoiled. Even this war is very worse. Up to now, people are still killing themselves in the name of tribalism. So let's not follow somebody because he is actually a leader who is misleading you, who doesn't tell you the truth, who doesn't even care about you. Now here, I've seen so many brothers and sisters dying in South Sudan for no reason. Innocent people. Even a child who does not talk died in the senseless war in South Sudan. Child who has never even said a one word has died for that because of other people greedy, because of other people thinking what you're doing is right, but it's very, very wrong. So people are suffering in South Sudan. People are dying every day. Now even people are starving only because of the name of Dinka, Nuer. We don't see what is true. Let's see what can bring us together. Let's see how we can build our country. Let's see how we can put other things and make it a better place for other people to come in.
Uganda mama zabu nkwebaza kubanga byokoledde bangi nange nga kotadde makula ku Kampala twasimulwa mawanga ewaka gye twali twatekebwa kuninga lusisinkana lwa wano Kiyira nali simanyi nti oba kiriggwa ewaka twalinga kumaggwa taloza kabira kulwana tofaanana ne kye twawukanya kanya kunoonyereza kumanya wolifuna emirembe tomanya
Kuduka butadda ne kajemva kulemererwa nagana amandla yesikijana fetosiga yakuwa yekka mukama yafuga wonna twaguma chuma chokalere ne bwonkona Uganda mirembe jokka okwagalana kye kisooka muntu munno tomujoga encho mwetaaga nebaza ensi
Handpicked by the ancestors, educated by an answer questions. Tried to dodge, but the pressure festered. Angels came demanding what's requested. I had to rise, cause the pain don't die. Turn my eyes up to face the sky. In every vision, there was I. Nature's greatness is my alibi. So I seeked, I studied, I listened, I learned. Walked the wilderness, no stone unturned. I found the water that my soul had yearned. So to lead by example, I returned.
Uganda, ekula lya Afrika, abaana n'abakulu, n'aba Uganda, baganda bange.
Hi guys. My name is Sheila. I'm from South Sudan. And I'm great to meet you guys. Have these words actually like a story in my life. As for me, this is my story. Coming from South Sudan up to here was a long journey and was a trouble way. So the time I'm coming here, it was not easy to get a vehicle of coming to Uganda. Of course, it was very hard. People will be killed, and to get a vehicle is not easy life. And it was very expensive to come here. So when you guys coming on the roadside, there's two tribes, the church on the roadside. And they ask you where you're from, they ask you, which tribe are you? They say you're Dinka. Those of nowhere they don't asking Dinkas, then they killed them. They say if you're other tribes, because for me, I'm not a Dinka, I'm from Mundari. I'm from Central. So my life was not easy. Here in Uganda, we come as refugees, now we live in the camps. A lot of things happen, not really good in my life in Uganda. Second thing is, I really want to go back to my country. I'm praying hard, let my country be okay. I want to go back home. I'm tired of this life, of being in the camp, living, eating bad foods all the time. And I need to work. I want to go back and work. I used to work. As with the mine actions. And I'm not happy. So my second thing is as Miss Sheila, I want really to have a good life. I'm tired of this life, of being war all the time, fighting in my country, all move up and down. So, I don't know what to do. I'm trying hard to go back to my country, but it's not easy to go back still. So, what I think for my country is, I think is the best country ever in Africa. And I'm still hoping, so it's going to be the best country in Africa, wherever. As now things are hard in my country, South Sudan, to get food is not easy because food used to come from Uganda, Kenya, some other places, but now life is hard in South Sudan. So I'm praying hard. I want my country to be okay. Praying to our president, Salva-Kiir, please, to bring us back home. We need to go back home. We're tired of this life, moving up and down. Eating bad foods in the camps, yet you have a good family, supposed to be. Now we have no schools. Our children, they are not in school. Even us, we have no future now of going back to school or doing this now. So, this is my history as Miss Sheila. I came with my mom and my brother and my daughter. We are 3. No, we are like 4 people. Yeah, 4. Then plus my sister's children, those are 2. Yeah, all we lives in the camps. Yeah, the camp is called Bidi Bidi. It's in the Yumbe side. This one. So it's really very hard. The camp, the food they give you is very little, cannot be enough for the family. Beans, they give you the old beans. I think it stays for years and years. And it still is not enough, people, it's not. Hospital is not really okay in the camp. When children are sick, they just give you only Panadol. Things are hard. If you don't have money, I don't think so. And also in school, in the camp, you have to buy for your uniform, you have to do this. Oh, they're also using some money to have that. Maybe other things, that's why they give for free, but most of things are really not good. So I really want to go back. I want to go back home. Praying hard. Home is the home. I need really to go back to my country. And go back and work for my family, my people. So that's what I am. I need to work. I was working. It was not this life here. My family was happy. And I'm done taking care of my family because my dad died when I was in the war. I don't know him. So he left me in my mom's stomach when I was pregnant, so I don't know. So I grew up just like that. So I'm done taking care of my family. What hurts me really is the country. I need really work. I need to go back and work for my family. I need happiness in the country. I need people to be good in life, like other countries like Uganda, Kenya. They're so happy with their countries. They're not suffering like us with South Sudanese. We're really suffering too much, so I'm not happy with my president now. What he did for us is not right. What he should do is just to open for us the way to go back.
Around here, wake up every morning, shed a tear. Fear, hope, yeah, probably both. Need to go home, see my folks. I'm doing things I never thought. Left my country before I got caught. New country and my mind's lost. I don't got no more pleasant thoughts. Long journey when dodging death. Who to pay? Thinking all. My country still at war. Everybody still freaking poor. Refugee camp in Uganda. Left my daughter with my mother. Not happy, no family. Made a choice, no plan B. Need work, only feel hurt. Free now, and I'm at my worst. Going insane. My country the best when it's not filled with pain. Oil we gain, brought out the shame. Guns coming out and they ready to blaze. All the bloodshed left too many stains. Damn. South Sudan, I love you. I have love for my country. I have love for my country. This war is over money. But we don't see the money. All this hate in my country. It used to be so loving. Now we have nothing. And war's still coming.
Suwewaka Jenale kawange Itatane mama Nevaganda wangabo Naye ena kuyeseno Katinde kumawanga Zunga busuzi Ngaza kukuteka Duko munji akasuwa kayatika ichiro mutubi no waza kumuyimba bo bewayimbanga nebake suwe waka eyo jenale kawange itatane mama
with one final thought. We must address the mental health of refugees. Thank you for watching.
Oh my God. What? Let's go. Yeah. Open your arms, refugees welcome. The people have come together. Ain't no dividing, we locked in, we riding. Let's ride. The people have come together. Reality wildin', Uganda smiling. The people have come together. South Sudan under pressure, forever remember. The people have come together. Come together. Come together. The people have come together. Come together. Come together. The people have come together. Come together. Come together. The people have come together. Come together. Come together. The people have come together.
We're here to celebrate the strength and courage of all refugees. And to those around the world that have opened their arms and gave them a helping hand, we honor you.
Peace riddled by gunshots. Little kids turn to their pops. No time beat to stop. Side of the road, bodies rock. So days from the day, only thing they pray, food, water, and shelter. They find kindness along the way.
Mom and dad lost survival is their only thought. Can't stop walking, what? Yeah, there's no pause. Imagine working every day is a lost cause. Loving your entire family, but they're all gone.
Haunted by casualties after finding a place to be. After finding a meal to eat, they won't be sleeping peacefully. But I'm starting to see this new community. Got a lot of love, feed their own, feeling like home.
Leave with nothing, lucky you got something, count your blessings. Face filled with drama, while your face is filled with pride. Forgot something that the universe calls karma. Stress brings drama, news brings irrelevance. Open your arms, refugees welcome. The people have come together.
Ain't no dividing, we locked in, we riding. It's right.
The people have come together. Reality wildin', Uganda smiling. The people have come together.
South Sudan under pressure, forever remember.
The people have come together. Come together. Come together. The people have come together. Come together. Come together. The people have come together.
I'm seeing the we, I'm seeing humanity, I'm seeing the policy Uganda got for refugees. Thank you for leading, doing good don't need no reason. Spread love ain't just a season, we all are human beings, right?
Feeling good, it's all love and it's all support. Uganda, we appreciate you opening the door. Refugees, welcome signs around the world. Let's join hands, women, man, boy, and girl.
I see beautiful people rising up so regal, representing so peaceful, cause no one is illegal. I see you holding signs of places that die. Fleeing danger ain't a crime, cross the borderline.
Open your arms, refugees welcome. The people have come together.
Ain't no dividing, we locked in, we riding. That's right.
The people have come together. Reality wildin', Uganda smiling. The people have come together.
South Sudan under pressure, forever remember.
The people have come together. Come together.